Hi, and welcome to this episode of Maple History Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Austin, and my guest today, again, is my husband, Simon.
As always.
Today, we'll be talking about a heritage moment of history, Cartier and his discovery of Canada. This is one of those parts of history that most people vaguely recollect from elementary school.
Heritage moments. Thank you very much.
I know, that was about it. They may know a little bit, but they may just... Probably it's just the heritage moment they know. I rewatched it. It's so bad.
Really?
It's so bad. It's so bad. So they have it where there's basically what happens is there's the group of indigenous people. They don't say who they are at all.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Nothing, no information given, even though we know who they were. And Cartier and his men with a priest are trudging along, and then they meet. And then the indigenous chief is saying, come on over to my village, my Canada.
Yeah.
And the priest's like, oh, yeah. He's saying, Canada, that's this land. And then in behind Cartier and the priest comes this kind of, I don't know, like just a regular crewman. He's like, Captain, I think what he's saying is those villages. And the priest said, no, I'm sure that he's saying Canada is. Yeah.
No, I remember that.
And then that's the heritage moment.
Sweet. Yeah. That's how Canada got its name. It's actually kind of, I don't know if it's not embarrassing. That's not the right word. It's funny.
But that's not even at all. Like,
no, it's not even.
There is some truth to it. Like the Canada, and the Canadians and there is some truth to that. I'm going to get into that a little bit more in the maybe not next episode, but the one after that, when I'm talking about what happened to this group of indigenous people and the name and everything. But it's like, there's something to it.
I only remember 3 heritage moments. There's this one, the Canada one. I remember the burnt toast one. Mm-hmm. And I remember, there's one where they were like signing something. I forget what it was. And they had one guy had to like sign an X or something like that. It was about reading or something. I totally don't remember what it was.
Yeah, it was about one-room schoolhouses and school teachers and how they taught. And then did you ever see the sacrilege moments?
I did. It was amazing. The sacrilege. He's like trying to fake read it. I cannot read. No shit.
The teacher. I don't know if I recommend watching the sacrilege moment for the Canada episode.
Oh no! It doesn't age well.
It's so bad. It's super homophobic.
Oh, is it? Oh, jeez. Okay, I didn't think of that.
It's so bad. Okay, so that's basically our 90s history of Cartier. Anyway, so Cartier didn't discover anything since there was already people here in the St. Lawrence and the Gaspé regions who had been here for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Yeah. There's
always been people kind of, basically, as soon as it opened up, there was people, but whether it was that group or they moved out and, how it went.
Yeah, could have been warring or migrating or whatever, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the majority, actually pretty much all of what we know about Cartier's voyages to Canada is from 3 books, basically the voyages of Jacques Cartier.
Okay.
It's like Voyage 1, Voyage 2, Voyage 3.
They were his? Like he wrote them?
No.
Oh. He had like a writer? Was it a ghostwriter type of thing?
No, we don't know.
Oh.
We don't know.
Somewhere.
He may have known about he may have seen the 3rd book, but we don't even have the original manuscripts.
Okay.
We have translated ones. So we have there's one in English and there's one in Italian.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have originals.
Gotcha.
It doesn't mean that they're not true.
Yeah.
Or true relations according to Cartier's log. So there seems to be truth here.
Okay.
But it's a first person POV kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
So you take it with a grain of salt. And it's only the European. You get some words of the indigenous people.
Okay.
But it's always filtered through.
Would they even be his logbooks or would they be the logbooks? I don't even know how that
he was the
work.
captain.
So does the captain do the writing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Probably one of the few people that
knew how to write. Well, there would be some.
Maybe a handful, yeah.
I just wanted to pop in here and clarify something about the authorship of the voyages. They are attributed to Jacques Cartier as the author, but he may not have written them. He may have had someone else write them, or someone may have taken his logs and done it for him. And it's not clear if he saw them all before they were published. It's likely that the third voyage was published after death, and the second voyage, he may have personally approved it. So just wanted to make that clear about that. Yeah, so as I said, there was 3 voyages. So, and there would have been correspondence like royal records and things like that that would corroborate what was going on and give other information about who he was and what happened and things like that.
Yep.
Okay, so Jacques Cartier, he was from a little town in the northwest of France called Saint Malo. If I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. He married well in 1520, and he had an estate in St. Malo that he would retire to after his messy Canadian trips. It's believed that he traveled to Brazil and Newfoundland with another explorer, possibly Giovanni di Verranzo, but there's not a lot of detail available at those trips. And honestly, I know a lot of the Canadian history textbooks and things like that go into a lot of the explorer era of that's about the Europeans. This is about Canada and the people here.
One of the reasons I imagine they did that was that it was easy, right? Like they had some records of like these things, so these things happen. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I almost want to call it lazy, but
yeah. And it was also the March of Progress was coming for North America.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
So it's they call it Whiggish.
Whiggish.
Yeah, it's like a.
Is that to do with the Whigs? Like
no, it's WHIG. It's like it's like a political party, but yeah, so it's this Whiggish view of like we're constantly seeking progress.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's almost like the British version of like the American Manifest Destiny.
No,
no, okay.
No, that's not Manifest Destiny is different than that because Manifest is conquering. It's about we are divinely owed this land.
Yeah.
Whereas Whiggishness is that history and human progress is continually moving forward and improving.
Oh, okay.
It's like a kind of more of a philosophy.
Okay.
Than conquering manifesto.
Okay. All right. Makes sense.
Okay. So Francis I commissioned Cartier in 1534, and Columbus and Cortez had already racked up a huge amount of atrocities in what they called the New World so far.
Yeah. Mostly down south like America.
Yeah.
I guess, yes. I was going to say South in America and South America.
Yeah, it was because the Spanish and Portuguese at this point had been given the New World by the Pope.
Oh, okay.
So the Spanish got, I forget which one it was, but the Spanish got some part and then the Portuguese got the other. And then it's like, oh, well, the rest of it we didn't know about. So I guess the English and the French can have at it. And that's kind of where we are, right? So that's why the English came to North America.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
yeah.
So they didn't, because they just had to obey the Pope?
Well, they didn't have to. It's just they'd already been there. So they were already settled. So they'd have to go to war. Well, they were always at war.
Yeah.
But they would have to fight their way in.
Yes. Yeah. Which would be a lot harder. Yeah, that's true.
So Cartier's plan was really to find a passage to Asia. That was what he wanted to do. Because they still didn't know about this whole North America continent.
Yeah.
They just thought, oh, well, there was like something there, but they didn't know how huge it was.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to fathom even today, right? Like how big it is. Like it's like...
Yeah, it's really hard to wrap your head around. And that's why, yeah, if we travel west, the idea of driving west, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad enough when we drove east.
Yeah.
But at least there's stuff there.
Yeah, it's true.
Sorry, no offense to Saskatchewan and Manitoba.
I've only ever driven to Winnipeg from here, and that was far.
Yeah.
It's far.
All right. So on April 20th, 1543, Cartier and 60 men set sail in just one boat this time. And they made good time. They got here in 20 days. And they arrived at the Strait of Belle Isle, which is between Newfoundland and Labrador. And the first people they saw on the Labrador coast, were likely the Beothuk, and they described them as wild and savage folk who painted themselves with certain tan colors. The Beothuk really loved ochre.
Yeah.
They're huge fans.
Yeah, yeah. You were telling me about this before. And like they painted on themselves, probably for mosquitoes or like to keep the bugs off and all that stuff.
But probably spiritual things too.
Oh,
so there's a lot.
And it is Beothuk, not Beothuk.
That's what I thought
Yeah.
it was Beatuk. I don't know why I thought that. But then I was reading about and then listened to a podcast about a new book that's come out. I will be talking about this book later. And the author and the host, they kept saying Beothuk. And I'm like, well, it must be that because what do I know? So, all right. So they sailed down the coast of Newfoundland around Yeah, they're just all over the place, basically. And from there, they sailed down to New Brunswick and into Chaleur Bay. And it's here they first encountered 40 or 50 canoes of Indigenous people who loudly attempted to trade with them. They paddled their canoes out and they made a huge racket to show that they wanted to trade with the French. But the French were alarmed, scared shitless, I don't know, by the sheer number of them. And they eventually fired off a couple of cannons to scare them away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's likely that these people were the Mi'kmaq who had encountered European fishermen many, many times already. So they were experienced traders. So the next day, a smaller number of Mi'kmaq paddled their canoes up to Cartier's ship with furs to trade. This time it went much more smoothly, and the French went ashore and traded kettles and knives and other items for the furs. So I guess the Mi'kmaq went back and be like, oh my God, what the hell's wrong with these guys? Anyways, let's try again tomorrow. And like, maybe they're scared.
We're just trying to get some pots.
Maybe we'll send the women. I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, no, don't send the women. Not to the French.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So Cartier continued on with his journey, but had some bad weather force them to take shelter in the Gaspé Bay. And this is where they met several hundred Stadaconans and their chief, Donnacona. So the Stadaconans were from the Quebec City area, but they were in Gaspé to hunt seals and fish, as they would do every summer. And Cartier was not very complimentary of the Stadaconans. So in the Voyages, it's written, so I don't know whatever the author related to the log says. In a quote, this people may well be called savage, for they are the sorriest folk there can be in the world. And the whole lot of them had not anything above the value of 5 sous, their canoes and fishing nets excepted. They go quite naked, except for a small skin, which they cover their privy parts, and for a few old skins, which they throw over their shoulders. They are not at all of the same race or language as the first we met. They have their heads shaved all around in circles, except for a tuft on top of the head, which they leave long like a horse's tail. They have no other dwelling but their canoes, which they turn upside down and sleep on the ground underneath. They eat their meat almost raw, only warming it a little on the coals, and the same with their fish. They never eat anything that has a taste of salt in it. They are wonderful thieves and steal everything they can carry off. That's our introduction to the Stadaconans.
All right.
And Donnacona.
It's a very, I mean, they don't eat anything with salt. Well, no kidding. They don't have salt.
Well, they have the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
But they really don't like salt. They hate it.
Really?
They think it's gross. So that is a conflict.
Yeah.
A food conflict.
Yeah. Wow. It's interesting. They warm it on the coals. Although if they just seared it, that would kill any bacteria.
Well, it wouldn't be bacteria. It's fresh.
Well, if it was fish, if it was, I don't know if they're talking about seal meat or something like that.
Probably. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. I don't know much about seal though. Like I've never had it. Like maybe you can eat it just raw. Like,
Well,
I have no
but they
idea.
do. The Inuit.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, they love it. Like it's like
Yeah, it's probably totally fun.
yeah, it's like makes them very happy. Like it's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this is like if Inuit people who live down south, when they go home and they get their home food or country food, it would be like comfort food.
Yeah.
All right. So not long after Cartier and his men were on the shore of the Gaspé Bay, Cartier and his men erected a huge 30-foot wooden cross with a coat of arms and the fleur-de-lis with the words "Vive le Roi de France." And they knelt before it and they, made the sign of the cross and were like doing their thing. So this really pissed off Donnacona. So he got in his canoe with his brother and 2 nephews and he went off on Cartier in what Cartier describes as a harangue, or at least the Voyages describe as a harangue, while still keeping his distance from the French ship. So Donnacona's had some sense to keep back.
Yeah.
Cartier understood this harangue as Donnacona making it known that this land belonged to him and that he shouldn't have put up the cross without permission. Cartier tried to make it seem like the cross was just a landmark and tried to placate Donnacona with an axe in exchange for Donnacona's bearskin. This brought Donnacona and his group closer to the French ship, and Cartier had his men board the canoe they were on and seize the 5 men.
Okay.
Yeah. And once they were on board, they tried to wine and dine them and gave them trinkets and things like that. Eventually, they said they were only going to release 3 of them.
Okay.
And the 2 that he was keeping were given French clothes and kind of dressed up. And here you go. And these 2 were Donnacona's sons or possibly nephews.
Okay.
Because if you remember the matrilineal family, the children of your sisters are your sons and daughters.
Yes. Yeah.
So
like a family kind of unit.
It doesn't really,
overall.
even if I'll just call them sons because it doesn't really matter because they would be considered their children.
Yeah.
So they were the ones that were going to be released were given hatchets and knives. And keep in mind here that there is a complete language barrier.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't understand the thing.
And all this was done with gestures and some sort of sign language that they were just making up on the spot.
Yeah.
Must have been so frustrating for everybody. Just maddening. So Donnacona quickly understood that the younger men, likely teenagers, were going to be kept by Cartier.
Yeah.
So what may have been happening from Donnacona's perspective is that he was okay with the 2 boys being kept by Cartier because he wanted to encourage trade between the Stadaconans and the French.
Yeah.
So Donnacona would have been well aware that the Mi'kmaq and other coastal nations had access to European trade goods. Mm-hmm. This is not new information.
Yeah.
So they would have had axes and blades and kettles and pots and whatnot.
It would have been a huge source of wealth.
Yep.
Military strength and just everything's easier with metal blades, right?
Yeah. So it's even possible that the Stadaconans would have even seen these weapons used in a massacre of over 200 Stadaconans on their way to the Gaspé hunting and fishing grounds just the previous year. This massacre was done with the Stadaconans called the Tudemons, but were likely the Mi'kmaq.
Okay.
So the 2 leaders, Cartier and Donnacona, were both operating with familiar frameworks in their own world, so to speak. So they were familiar with taking or giving hostages to benefit future trade. Or at least Donnacona was. Donnacona likely had a tradition of giving children or young people to other tribes to encourage this peaceful trade, whereas Cartier had the recent examples of the Spanish kidnapping people, not to foster mutually beneficial relationships, but to have young people who could act as interpreters in service to the Spanish, or in this case, the French crown.
Mm-hmm. Well, it would foster trade in a way.
But it's not necessarily mutually beneficial. It's more a path to dominance for the Europeans.
Yeah.
Whereas I believe the indigenous nations they fought for ground and they had wars and things like that.
Yeah, of course.
But these types of trading of children would have been more for trade.
Okay.
Like for relationship building.
Yeah, yeah.
Not threats.
Yeah.
Whereas, but the keeping of hostages was pretty typical over in Europe. I mean, they took hostages all the time.
Yeah.
They conquered someone, they'd take the sons and take them back home, and they'd raise them kind of like, do you remember in Game of Thrones?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they would take,
There's truth in that. Like the reason that show's popular, one of the reasons is like the history. People think it's history.
Yeah, but they would do that.
Yeah, it's true.
No, 100%. What was his name? Reek? Called them? Yeah.
Well, eventually, but that's...
Yeah, not at the beginning. But yeah, that was the Game of Thrones guy who was like the other son. Yeah.
So, Cartier had buggered off back to France with the 2 boys, Domagaya and Taignoane. We don't have really a record of what happened to them there. We know that they learned some French and that they weren't baptized.
Okay.
And Cartier had said he would return the boys the next year, and he was true to his word. He came back the next year. He brought them home the next summer when he received another commission to return. And this time, he brought 3 ships and more men.
Okay. And the boys didn't die over there or anything like that?
Nope.
Didn't get sick? Wow. All right.
I mean, I don't know if they got sick, but they survived. Whatever happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't really know exactly what happened.
But they came back alive.
I know.
I'm shocked.
I know. All right. So what we do know is that Taignoane and Domagaya were telling Cartier about their homeland.
Okay.
And then the return trip wasn't as easy.
Okay.
A little more rough. But then they did guide Cartier down the St. Lawrence to their village of Stadacona, which is now, it's part of Quebec City.
Okay.
So the exploration of the St. Lawrence took approximately 8 weeks because Cartier was an explorer. He was very skilled and he studied the plants and the animals and the islands and everything. And he was that's all in his voyages. He was noting all of this information.
And he's making maps, right?
I can't remember.
I think so. I think I read that in that map book.
Actually, Champlain was really good with the maps.
Yeah.
But that's later. And on these travels, he was making plans and soliciting commitments from Tainoane and Damagaya to have them guide him to the village of Hochelaga in the land of Saguenay beyond. We don't know what this Saguenay thing is. We'll talk about that a bit. So when they came near Ile d'Orléans on September 8th, 1535, they were spotted, but they were treated with caution until Damagaya and Tainoane were able to identify themselves. What Cartier would have seen as he traveled down the St. Lawrence before finally arriving at Stadacona and eventually anchoring or landing, I don't know if he anchored, at the mouth of the St. Charles River, were several unfortified settlements. So first he would have seen Adjoaste, Starnatum, I'm saying this, just brutalizing this, Tyla, and Citadin. I did my best. Beyond Stadacona were Tecononde and Achilasi. So these probably would have been led by headmen, like chiefs.
Okay,
But
like under chiefs.
it seems like it. Donnacona seems to be
or been
the
like
guy.
associated chiefs, like
Yeah.
or yeah.
So it's
okay.
not really clear if they're all the same nation or
Okay.
if Hochelaga later on, if we don't know if they're the same nation.
Yeah, but they were probably at least affiliated, or
Yeah,
like friendlies, or
They would have something.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Haudenosaunee, who are like 5 groups, right? Like this is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
the
they're not-
Haudenosaunee. So the Haudenosaunee were already a confederacy at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
So Donnacona came alongside Cartier's ship with 12 canoes to celebrate the return of his sons with a song and dance. Cartier, of course, called it a harangue.
But it was really like a party.
Yeah, he was a celebratory song and dance because they did dance a lot.
Yeah.
So the boys returned to their father, and Cartier believed that they were telling him all these great things about being in France. Woo, yay!
Yeah.
We're French now. That may have been how it started, but when Tainoane and Damagaya spent about a week with their father away from Cartier, it seems that the real story was finally coming out.
Okay.
We don't know exactly what was said, but Cartier noticed that his formerly friendly guides were now chilly and were no longer willing to take him to Hochelaga.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, they were stolen.
Yeah.
They must have been pissed.
Yeah.
And go to France and have all these restrictions and the freedom that they had at home. Like, it just would have hated it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Cartier was bound and determined to get to Hochelaga, and Donnacona was equally determined to dissuade him from going. So he kept offering gifts such as fish and eels, and even gave Cartier his 10-year-old daughter.
Oh.
And 2 young nephews.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There is so much children. There's so much children giving in this next bit. Like
wow.
they keep giving children
Okay.
and little girls, and I'm like, oh, I don't like it. You try not to like it. Whatever.
Why were they even with them? That's weird.
No. The Donnacona is giving the children.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was the other way around.
No,
okay.
Cartier's not giving children.
Yeah.
Donnacona is giving his
Totally
niece
mixed
or
that up.
daughter and nephews.
Yeah.
So Bruce Trigger, my old friend, believes that giving the children to Cartier was to forge a strong alliance and was an attempt to keep him from Hochelaga.
Okay.
So that was what Bruce thinks the plan was.
With it, like, that would be like down the river?
Yeah, Hochelaga is Montreal.
Okay.
Stadacona is Quebec City.
Yeah. So
just to give you a geography placement.
yeah, and so I imagine it would be like maybe not like a warring tribe or warring group, but like a rival.
Yeah,
probably?
it seems like it's more rival.
Okay.
So Donnacona did not want Hochelaga to get a relationship with the French in opposition to them.
Yeah,
because
that
he
makes
wants
sense.
to keep the relationship under his control.
Of course.
So
The knives, the blades, the pots, the kettles, like all the wealth. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if I lived in a place that had no metal pots and I had to cook in
Clay
pots, and then my husband went off and came home and someone had a pot and I'm like, why didn't you get me a pot? You need to get me a pot.
Yeah.
Figure it out. So I understand the drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was many factors that were pulling these men to get these pots.
Well,
I don't think the women gave a shit about the knives, but like I'm sure they did really, but the pots were like, oh my God, I need a pot.
Well, I imagine it made cutting down the trees, like having an axe.
Oh yeah.
Would be, I don't even know how you cut down a tree without an axe.
Well, they had stone tools, but then they also did things like they choked off the roots.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't remember exactly how they do that, but they choke off the roots. So they kill the tree and then they pull it down.
Yeah.
That's one of the ways.
Yeah, you could do that.
So it took a long time though.
Yeah, that would. You can kill a tree by putting weight all around the, like just all around it.
Oh.
Kind of like the weight crushes the roots and.
Well, maybe that's what they did. They would have known. I mean, they had, but yeah, it took years to clear a field.
Yeah. I know that's sometimes people inadvertently kill their trees like out front by doing like a nice stone, like encircling thing around it. And it's like, whoops, killed the tree.
Oh, maybe that's what they did. They had a lot of rocks.
Yeah.
Okay. So this back and forth where Cartier was like, take me to Hochelaga. And Donnacona was like, no, went back and forth. And Cartier was pretty pissed off that Tainoane and Domagaya weren't going to take him anymore. And he thought that Domagaya and Tainoane were treacherous.
Oh.
Because he's like, well, I took you to France. Now you're French. And these guys are like, the hell? I've been there for 9 months. And you guys suck. Oh, your food was too salty. It was terrible. Didn't like it. So anyway, Cartier just kept piling on the mistakes that pissed off Donnacona. He had landed his ships without permission, and I'm sure he had not forgotten that Cartier had put up that cross in Gaspé last year. Mm-hmm. He'd stolen his sons, and now the French kept their weapons on them at all times, even though the Stadaconans did not. So this was a major faux pas for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Cartier was insistent on going to Hochelaga against Donnacona's wishes, exacerbated the growing tensions. As a last-ditch effort to change his mind from going, Donnacona sent a handful of shamans with their faces painted black to tell Cartier that if he goes, it will mean destruction for him and his men. It didn't work. So Cartier decides he's going to go.
Yeah.
Whether he has a guide or not, he's going up the river or down the river. I don't know. They're going
against the flow of water. I think that means upriver.
That makes sense because it flows out to sea.
Yes.
All right. So off he went to Hochelaga and left most of his men behind. They took about 20. And the men he left behind, they kind of got a little paranoid and they built a fort.
Oh, okay.
Or they got bored. Whatever. Yeah. They built a fort.
Okay.
So now they have a fort. That's going to be important later. So Cartier sails down up, to Hochelaga with 20 men and is gone for about a week. It's not long because it's Quebec City to Montreal. It's not far when you're on the river.
Yeah.
So we sailed down the river, passing Tequendone, and stopped at the village of Achelassy. And the headman here was pretty happy to see Cartier and gave him a little girl.
Oh, okay.
In hopes of securing a trade relationship. So, yay.
Okay.
I don't know what happened to all these kids.
I
hope they ran away.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I hope some of them, there's another one that definitely ran away, and then Donnacona brought her back.
Oh.
And I was like, oh man. Anyhow, it's gross. I don't like the giving of children as gifts.
Yeah. Seems wrong.
So anyways, next.
I'm coming down on the that's a negative for me.
It doesn't matter the culture. I think using children to foster trade relationships, I don't like it.
Yeah. Controversial take.
Yeah. Hot take. So the next day, September 20th, Cartier arrived at the palisaded village of Hochelaga.
What are palisades?
Just
like fortification?
Walls,
No, walls? Okay, yeah. I should have known that. I don't think enough about the Roman Empire, I guess.
No, you're not a Roman Empire guy? They would build palisades all the time. They carry the sticks on their back. I think a lot of them Roman Empire.
I knew that they carried walls around, or like that was the thing, but
to build their palisades.
Okay, yeah.
They'd each carry I don't know, a few big sticks.
Yeah, okay.
As part of their pack that they had to carry.
Oh, all right.
Mm-hmm. So here's a quote from Voyages. This is Voyage 2, so Voyage 1's already on each book.
The first one, where he took the 2 boys, went back. Now he's back on the second
now we're
trip.
On Voyage 2. Yeah, season 2.
Season 2. Season 2, episode
Season
3.
2 is the much bigger episode. Season 3 gets a little weird.
Okay.
But I don't know if we're going to get to that today.
Gets a little weird.
There's new characters
they jump
involved.
the shark. It's like...
They kind of do. That involves like diamonds and gold, but it doesn't. Anyways, we'll get to that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this village is described in the Voyages as circular and is completely enclosed by a wooden palisade in 3 tiers like a pyramid. The top one is built crosswise, the middle one perpendicular, and the lowest one of strips of wood placed lengthwise.
What does that mean? The tallest one is built crosswise, like a circle crosswise?
I don't know.
I don't understand.
There is a weird drawing. Let me just see if I can get the one from Bruce here. It's not Bruce's drawing, but this is...
Just show it to me and I'll describe it to the audience.
Okay. I'm going to give some framework here. So this is Ramusio's plan of Hochelaga, but it's wrong. Like it's not, like they have archaeology, right? So that this is not true.
Okay.
And Bruce, in his delightful style, says it's practically useless for ethnographers. Or something to that effect.
So I'll describe the practically useless. This is just a circle.
It's a circle, and then the houses in the middle.
Yeah, this is a circle with houses in the middle, and it shows like the walls, but they don't go all the way around, which seems really dumb.
That's ineffective.
Yeah, there's like a wall that goes like third of the way around the circle on the bottom, and then another wall that goes about a fifth of the way around the circle, kind of at the top, and the rest is just like wide open, which doesn't.
And then they've got all the houses in the middle.
Yeah, houses in the middle, or maybe there's like
very tightly clustered.
Yeah, like absurdly, and they're all like perfectly square. Yeah, this doesn't make.
No, it's not. That's why Bruce said it's dumb. So, and it goes on to describe lookout spots on the top of the palisades with rocks and whatnot for chucking.
Yeah.
And then onto the houses below.
It's got the chucking rocks on top.
Well, yeah. And then...
Wait, did they have...
Atlatls?
Atlatls, yeah.
I'm sure they would have had some. I don't know if they used them, though.
For rocks?
I don't know. They had arrows. They wouldn't use atlatls anymore. They had bow and arrows.
Yeah, that's true. But they'd be good for chucking rocks.
Those slingshots.
Yeah, or even just a sling.
You didn't use an atlatl first.
No,
that was a spear thrower.
Yeah.
The slingshot.
Yeah.
Was for rock chucking.
Well, an atlatl is it atlatl or atlatl? I always thought it was atlatl. Anyways, it's like an atlatl.
It's ATL.
Yeah. Anyways, whatever they are, like people use them now to throw dog balls, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like you put a tennis ball in it and you like chuck it and it like increases the lever arm. So that's why I think
it's different. I think those are different because atlatl is a spear thrower.
Yeah, it's a spear thrower, but it's the exact same principle. Is like it's the whole idea is that you increase the lever arm. This is my physics degree showing up. The one time I get to show
Henry's asleep. He doesn't care.
He's like, oh, it's so boring, Dad.
Oh my God.
Stop explaining it.
Dad.
Anyways, for the audience that doesn't know what an atlatl is, it's like think of the dog ball throwers where they throw a tennis ball in, but instead of a tennis ball, there's like a little hook thing where you put a spear into it. You can throw it.
It's like a slot.
Yeah, a little slot. Yep.
All right. Yeah, and then it has the houses, and it describes the houses, which like the way it was actually fairly complimentary, the way they like, kind of like, I don't know if they use the word ingenious, but like cleverly lashed and things like that.
Yeah.
With the wood and the bark and things like that. Long houses, I think is what they're describing. I can't swear to that, but it seems like these are long houses. Yeah. Since this is the region where the Huron or the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee, they all had long houses. So why would these people have?
And it's a very efficient way to build housing.
Yeah.
Keep the rain off.
They would have seen them. They would. Yeah. So
also there was like parallel development, like very similar kind of like thatched cottages and stuff like that they had in Europe. Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the author, whoever he is, also describes the food. It was a lot of corn. Yeah. Corn. And I find it interesting. They say that it resembles Brazil millet. So Brazil millet is corn down there. And they say they use it, quote, as we use wheat.
Yeah.
So bread, soups, everything. Like it's in everything.
Yeah.
And peas, and notably, they say they don't put salt in it. They're very, like, the amount of time they mention how much they don't eat salt. It just bothered them so much. Because there's going to be another reference later.
Okay.
All right. So this is all in Hochelaga, as you remember.
Yeah.
So there's this weird little section where they're describing wampum and how they make it. So the wampum is the shells that they use in ceremony and are very prized.
Yeah.
So they say that how they get the wampum and how they make the wampum is that, this is what the French are saying that the Hochelagans do, that they make incisions in the ass of an executed man. Yeah.
Okay.
And then sink the body in the river or water. It didn't say whether it was lake or river, but I assume it's a river, and leave it for a week.
Okay.
And then they bring the body back up, and voila, you have wampum in the slits. That's not how they make that.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
I know. These guys, I'm like, they lack any credulity at all. They're like, oh, that's how they make it. Oh, okay. Yeah. So
It's
these
like-
are the wampum shells. Yeah.
They're shells that they put little holes in, right?
And they're from the ocean.
Yeah.
They don't get them from, well, they might get them from St. Lawrence. I don't know. They're more from
Yeah.
the East Coast.
Yeah.
And they're a trade item that come up from the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to look up wampum, there's some really interesting stuff. And there's modern artisans and indigenous creators on the East Coast of like America
Okay.
that make beautiful things, and they show how they make them now, and they kind of talk about the symbolism and the artistry and how it goes. So I recommend looking that up because it's some interesting stuff. I think it was NPR or PBS or something like that. So there's some really good stuff out there.
Nice.
Okay. It's just so weird. Oh, and they also say that they are used to stop nosebleeds, and they know this because they tried it.
Okay. They shoved shells up their noses to stop nosebleeds?
I don't know.
From the butt of a dead man?
That they sunk in the lake for a week or a river for a week.
Okay.
So they land. They're in Hochelaga, and Cartier is about to have a great time because it's very much like, I am French, and here comes all these people, and they think I'm great, and there's just crowds and women petting him.
Mm-hmm.
Not in, I don't know if it was inappropriate or what. I don't know, but they were like petting his arms and kissing. Anyways, they thought he was just the bee's knees. Crowding around, giving him food, and he says that they were throwing fish and things like that in the...
Sorry, I just had this like picture in my face, in my head. Smacking like fish. Getting,
well, they kept, because they had the
They kept
longboats.
throwing fish at me. Get away.
So they threw the fish. They were like, they kept throwing fish at our boats. And anyways, these people were thrilled to see him. It was a very different type of meeting than the Mi'kmaq and the Stadaconans, who were there to be like, hey, you want to trade?
Mm-hmm.
These guys are like, hey, are you guys gods?
Oh.
Well, I'm overstating it a little bit, but it was very different. They thought that they were maybe shaman with healing powers.
Mm.
So when he met the chief the next day, Cartier was led into the center of the village and was surrounded by people again. So just throngs of folks.
Yeah.
And then he saw a man being carried in on the shoulder of 9 or 10 strong men. And I think that's a bit hyperbole there.
It's a lot of men.
That's a lot of men. To be carrying one other man. And he was laid down on animal skin, a deer skin probably. And Cartier quickly saw that he was paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
And it became clear that the people wanted him to heal the man and others.
Mm-hmm.
So Cartier prayed over the various people and made the sign of the cross. And it pleased them. They were all like, oh, yeah, he's doing the thing. And women tried to give him food again. And in the voyages, he notes that he rejected it because it was unsalted.
Disgusting.
Oh my God.
Not even a sauce on it. Sorry.
Where's my hollandaise?
Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't stick around Hochelaga for very long, which it was weird. They were there for like a day.
Really?
Like they were like, oh, okay. And he's like, goes on and on about it forever.
Yeah.
To Tainoine and Domagaya. And he's like, take me there. And he's like, here. He's like a kid. Can we go? Can we go? Can we go? I'm bored. And then he buggers off. So who knows? Maybe it was like kind of weirded out by that they weren't there to trade, or who knows? Like it's not really clear to me.
Or maybe he knew that like he needed to get out of there because like he knows in his head, he's like, I'm not a healer, right?
That guy's still paralyzed. It's not working. Yeah.
It's time to peace out.
Okay, so they returned to Stadacona and the newly fortified French camp, and to growing tensions on both sides. They don't like each other anymore very much. So Tainone and Domagaya might have been like the drivers here, because these are young men. You got to remember that these probably were teenagers.
Mm-hmm. They could have been like 18, yeah.
Like you steal an 18-year-old, you take them away from your family, and you put them in France with salted food. That's gross.
Yeah.
And you're getting bossed around all the time. Stinks probably.
Yeah.
Then you return and you're like, oh, I'm home. Oh my God. And the other thing, Tainone and Domagaya assessed the value of things. Mm-hmm. And so that when they were giving these little trinkets, and people were like super excited, they're like, don't take that. They're playing you.
Yeah.
And so he told his people, they told their people, like, no, you're being conned.
Yeah.
And Cartier took offense to that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, too bad, buddy. So Cartier was becoming more and more convinced that the Stadaconas were going to attack any day. And it's winter's coming.
Oh, winter's coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they haven't dealt with a Canadian winter. No. Okay. Yeah.
Nope. With a Quebec winter.
Yeah. Quebec.
Quebec City winter. Here comes the snow. It's just going to be spectacularly bad.
Yeah.
And here comes the scurvy. So it killed 25 of his men. And fun fact, anyone listening who have children, when our kids lose a tooth, we tell them that they have scurvy and that's why they lost their tooth, and that they need to eat more fruit and vegetables.
Yeah, absolutely.
They find it funny. We find it funny. It's just amusing. So it is a typical Canadian winter, and they were distressed when their wine froze.
Oh,
that would have sucked.
Yeah.
So the scurvy hit. It was bad. Only like 2 or 3 men didn't get scurvy.
Yeah. Wow. And the Stadaconans all knew how to deal with it, obviously.
Well, they was hitting them too. There was an illness going around, and the Stadaconans were sick too. It may have been a European disease, but it's also clear that some of them had scurvy. For example, maybe this is apocryphal, I don't know. But Cartier saw that Domagaya had what Cartier believed to be scurvy.
Yeah.
Because he saw that Domagaya's like teeth had kind of fallen out, and someone had his knee was swollen up the size of a toddler.
Okay.
I'm like that.
That's really big.
That's really bad. Anyways, and then a week later, he sees Domagaya and he's all better.
Okay.
So Cartier goes to him like, dude, what'd you do?
Yeah.
And Domagaya was like, yeah, we just took the medicine. So the cure was aneda, which is white cedar fronds. Mm-hmm. They made the tea, and Domagaya immediately had it brought over, and they did the thing. The men did not want to take it.
Tastes gross.
Well, or they're just like they're trying to poison us.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever. Who knows? But some were brave enough to try it, and then they just immediately started improving.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, I guess we're going to do this. So the tensions were festering all winter, and Tainone seemed to be whispering conspiratorially against Cartier, or at least that's what Cartier's perception was. And he became more and more concerned that an attack was coming. So, and then Donnacona and Tainone and others went hunting in February and they were gone about 2 months.
Okay.
And they said they were going hunting, but Cartier thought, oh, they're gathering forces. Mm-hmm. So he was all worried. So Donnacona eventually returned. So this would have been April-ish.
Yeah.
And Donnacona was taken ill for a while, or maybe Cartier thought he was faking. So he was in his house. So they're all kind of separate, right? Because they're doing their own thing. They're not on great terms.
Yeah, yeah.
So Cartier believed Tainone was conspiring. So he sent one of his men who everybody liked. I guess is a cool guy. His name was Charles Guyot.
Okay.
So they sent everybody's favorite guy
to
investigate what was going on at Donnacona's house. And Guyot got there, and they saw that there was all these strangers, basically.
Oh, okay.
But there's just this hunting party.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It was just fair. But Cartier took this information and decided on something he'd been thinking about for a while. That he was going to capture Donnacona and take him back to France.
Oh, okay.
And so and one of the reasons he wanted to capture Donnacona and take him back to France is because he's been obsessed with this idea of Saguenay, this land of Saguenay, this kingdom of Saguenay that is full of jewels and rubies and gold or whatever.
Oh,
At least that's what he thought.
Yeah.
And Donnacona, he fed into this.
Oh,
Totally. Yeah. So I'm going to paraphrase. Basically, Donnacona is like, oh my God, yeah, I've been there. It's great. There are people there. They have no anus. They don't have a butthole at all.
They're so cool they don't even poop.
And they don't eat anything and they just drink and pee.
Okay.
And there's another place down the way. Everyone has one leg.
They just hop around.
And Cartier believed it. And there is no doubt in my mind that Donnacona was absolutely 100% taking the piss.
Oh, 100%. Wow. That's amazing.
Yep.
But
It's just, yeah. No, those guys don't have anuses. They don't eat anything. I think in the voyages it said they just drink and make water with their penis.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yep. Good stuff.
Do you imagine talking about that after he left? Just like,
Do you believe this?
stories about his straight face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Or his brothers, because Donnacona's brothers, like brothers, right? So
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, we've been there too. It's great.
It's amazing.
It's a weird place, but kind of fun. Okay.
We're so fast. They can just hop.
So Cartier had this plan to take Donnacona. And so he went about setting this trap. So Donnacona had his own schemes, though, that he was trying to use Cartier for. So Tainoine let Cartier know through Gaillot that there was a man named Agona who may have been working against Donnacona to try and take kind of the chiefdom.
Okay.
So there would have been factions. It wouldn't have been kind of Game of Thrones style where there's like one man, because that's not how power works. You need your people. Like you can't just, it's not like a kingship.
Yeah.
So Donnacona wanted Cartier to kidnap Agona and take him with him to France.
Yeah.
Or get rid of him. But Cartier was going to play against this. He's like, well, I'm not going to take Agona because I think Agona's going to be better. Maybe Agona was more amenable to the French, whereas because the Donnacona and Tainoine and Domagaya were like, oh my God, these guys are such assholes. We don't want to work with them.
Or he's just trying to develop the trade relationship more. So he's more agreeable and more like sycophantic, possibly.
Maybe. So Cartier tried to lure both Donnacona and Agona to his ship, but they weren't having any of it. Nobody trusted.
Yeah, of course.
Like the Stadaconas did not trust Cartier. I mean, they're right. So this takes place over like a little while. I'm going to shorten it. So after a couple of days of no luck luring them in, Cartier got a rumor going that they had abandoned one of their ships and they were letting the people from the village of Citadin take all the nails off the ship.
Oh.
So this drew Tainoine and Domagaya to beat with Cartier at his fort. And Cartier told him that he just wanted to take a couple children to France.
Okay.
That's it. But he was going to take Agona as a favor and maybe maroon him on the way home.
Okay.
So it's fine. I just want a couple kids.
Yeah.
So this part gets confusing, but Tainoine promised to bring Donnacona and others to the fort. Because they do still want the stuff. They still want the trade relationship. They still want to do something here. And to add a little flair to the story, Cartier had a huge cross erected by the river and a trap was set. So he had talked to his men. They're like, we're going to grab them when they come in. So Tainoine saw the trap and sent all the women away. So like into the woods, right? Because they're all around, right?
Yeah.
And it's not really clear to me how they kept saying they lured him in. I don't know how.
Yeah.
They kept just talking about luring him in. I'm like, I mean, what are they doing? Like, they don't really say. Anyways, so Domagaya and the two other men, probably brothers, they kind of get them into a place where they can grab them. And Tainoine sees that, oh no, they're going to take him. So Tainoine tries to get them get to them, doesn't get to them in time. It's all very dramatic. And because Tainone tries to get to them, he gets captured too. So everyone's captured. So it's Domagaya, Donnacona, Tainone, the uncles, or whatever, maybe some others. They're captured and they're taken to the ships.
Okay.
And everyone on the shore is like losing it.
Yeah.
And very upset. And then the next day, calm down a little bit, and then they go to the ships and try and like see what's going on and like give them things. But basically, it's a done deal. They're going to take Donnacona, Tainone, Domagaya, uncles, some children.
Wow, a lot of them.
There's 10.
Yeah.
They're going to take 10.
Okay.
But Tainone and Domagaya had been brought back the next year, right? So they're like, how's it gonna? It's not gonna be that bad.
Yeah.
Anyways, so women brought food over, because they didn't want the salty crap that the French were going to feed them, and brought shell collars, wampum collars, to encourage the return of Donnacona.
Yeah.
So just kind of all this enticements, and so they brought them back to France.
Okay.
So Donnacona made it to France and even met with the king.
Oh, all right.
Apparently.
Yeah.
And he kept up his great stories.
Yeah.
About jewels and so on. And
added one-legged hopping.
No, this one's
creature.
about men with wings who flew around with like bats.
Sweet. Even
Love
better.
it.
Did they sleep upside down, hanging upside down?
No, just creative. And there was some ambassador or someone was like, no, like that doesn't sound right. And the king was like, no, his story, he kept his story straight all the time. So it must be true. Okay. All right, Francis, you got played. Yeah. Whatever. But yeah, what the story is that Donnacona lived about 4 years or 5 years and was baptized. Whether he was a true believer, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he lived for a while.
Okay. But because you're saying he lived for a while, I assume that he died in France.
Yeah, he died in France after 5 years. He never went back.
Yeah.
None of them ever went back.
Oh, wow. Do we know how they died? Was it just sickness?
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, who knows how many, like, it's not even clear how many made it the crossing.
Yeah, that's true.
This isn't like Middle Passage stuff, right? It's not like the slave ships or anything. They were just on a ship. I mean, people die in the ships. Like, I'm sure one of the French guys died. Like, they just died. But yeah, all but one of the girl, like, by the time Cartier goes back 5 years later, all but one are dead.
Okay.
One of the girls.
Yeah.
And
does she go back or no? Nope. She stays in France.
She stays.
She doesn't even get to come back.
No, it doesn't even get to come back because Cartier didn't want her telling everybody that everybody's dead.
Yeah.
Because he said, no, they're fine. They're having a great time.
They're living it up. Yeah.
Yeah. He lied.
Yeah.
So that's all I got so far. There's one more voyage.
Okay. The crazy town jump in the shark voyage. Is that going to be part 2? Yeah,
it'll be a short one though.
Yeah, that's okay.
Because then after that, it's going to be where'd they go?
Yeah, the Stadaconas, you mean?
Yeah, and the Hochulagans.
Really?
By the time Champlain's there, they're like,
it's like a ghost town.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they're gone, completely gone. No sign of them. Poof.
Interesting. And no one's taken over their like.
Nope.
Because that's great land, or those are great places like Quebec City,
no
Montreal.
One lived there.
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing some stories.
Yeah, so we'll go next time. We'll finish off with a little short episode, I guess, of Voyage 3.
Okay. Season
3 with the new characters of Roberval and Cartier just kind of bailing.
He's like, I'm done. I'm out of here.
So spoiler. Anyways, so yeah, that's all I got. Henry, what do you think? He's fast asleep. He doesn't give a shit. He's done.
He's done.
He's over this. He
right.
pieced out as when you were talking about atlatls.
Yeah. Get out of here. This is a history podcast, not a science podcast.
I don't care about that. So, people, like, subscribe, whatever you're supposed to say, and comment and rate, particularly on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Yes,
whatever.
Please. It helps out a lot.
That would be awesome. So, thank you. Listen next time.